what I love about that is that there's not only that recognition, and sometimes it's hard to relate to something that was so many thousands of years ago.
Yes.
But that it hasn't really died off during that time. We still see that same value, that same recognition. It's still revered in largely the same way, and there's got to be some really good reasons for that, which is what frankly has made frankincense, no pun intended, one of my favorite essential oils for a long period of time now. I know that you love frankincense too. So tell me why you love frankincense.
It's a daily at our house. Well, for me, it connects me back, thinking about that original gift, and think about maybe some of the reasons that the Magi gave this to the babe Jesus. It was they would use it as an anointing for those of royal birth.
Yeah, that's right.
And so that was very significant, right, to show that they saw him as a king, that he was definitely of royal birth. And so as I use it in my daily life, that definitely connects me back to that time. But I love it for what it does for my skin. I love to put it in with a serum or with lotion, and I use it on my face. We know that it's very cell-renewing, very self-protecting, and I love what it does for me that way. I love that it's something that, when my son was young, Keaton was very sensitive to many of the oils, and so frankincense, being very mild, was the one that we turned to. So frankincense was his go-to for everything and anything, and it never let us down. It was so versatile in its use and its benefits.
There's a lot of reason for that versatility, and I know how much you love talking about chemistry. But before we do, I'm thinking about my own personal use, about why I use frankincense. I use it for very different reasons.
Okay.
I know you look at me and you say, "Wow, really?" Because you're beautiful.
They're saying he looks 29. Give him some compliments here. He looks amazing.
I use it for very different reasons, and you touched on it just a little bit, and that is there's a lot of versatility associated with frankincense.
Yes.
And we know a lot about the chemistry of essential oils. We know a lot about how essential oils now work. As we were beginning in essential oils, I think back in my own journey, and I think you would relate to this too, there wasn't a tremendous amount of science that we could turn to, and that's all different now. And it's nice for two reasons. One is that we not only get this information that we fall back on all the time, but it turns out we were right. In our own experiences with frankincense and with essential oils in general.
Science is now backing up what we knew many, many years ago. And isn't it awesome? It's like, yeah, we knew that. I love it when we have Dr. Oscathorpe or Dr. Stevens who will come in, and they'll be so excited because, they'll conduct some research and say, "Did you know?"
Yeah, we knew. We knew.
Like, yeah.
It's nice to have that validation, but I think this brings up an interesting point that we really should ask everyone to remember, and that is one of the things that we've done consistently with essential oils. I use my wife as this example. I ask her why she uses frankincense, and I'm always wanting her to say, "Well, there's this really smart guy, and he talks about it all the time." That has never fallen from her lips. She just looks at me in all earnestness and says, "I don't know, I just feel better when I do."
Yes.
And so I think we need to ask everybody to really trust your experience with the essential oils. Don't always feel like everything has to come into, here's all the chemistry, here's all the science, here's all the pathways, here's all the cellular interactions, here's all the enzymes that are involved. We know all of those things now, and we didn't know them before.
We know some of those things, and I think that's what I love so much about essential oils. It doesn't matter. I mean, we're at the forefront of essential oil research. No company in the world knows more than we know because they're not able to do the science that we're doing. They don't have the purity that we have. I mean, we're doing pharmacokinetics. We're doing epigenetics. I mean, we're going into amazing places that have never been gone into before with essential oils.
Here's what I like about all of that.
And yet, we still only know this much.
Yeah, there's two things.
Isn't that exciting?
It very much so. I think it was Dr. Stevens who I was talking to not too long ago, and she kind of let out this big sigh and said, I don't think we're ever going to understand everything.
Nope,
there's truth in that statement. They're very complex. We know that.
Yes.
But what I love about it is, in spite of that complexity, in spite of everything that we know, and as Emily says, everything that we still don't know at this point, what we do know, and we know with great clarity, is the value and the benefit that they are bringing to people.
Yes, we hear the stories from all over the world.
Yeah, and that you and I are not alone in our experience, and neither are you alone in your experience. And for me, that is a little bit energizing, because it allows me this opportunity to say, okay, well, maybe I do know all of this chemistry and all of these other things.
Yes.
But I got to tell you, that's not why I use it. It's nice to feel validated in what my experience has been, but I'm undeviating in my willingness to use the essential oils because of my experience and the outcomes that they create for me. It's nice to have that backdrop of beginning to understand exactly why. Look, we could spend the next hour or two talking about quality and why that matters, and even just small variations create large downstream effects that cannot always be favorable. So quality and all of those things factor into it. But this is why I love where we are right now in doTERRA, because all those years ago, you remember as we were sitting and we were talking about, should we create a company?
Yes.
It was you and I and Dave at a Italian turned Mexican restaurant.
Yes.
Look, I did well to remember it was in Provo, okay? You think about where we were then, Emily.
Yes.
And we've not changed those core principles of what we were trying to accomplish and why they would be critical in the process.
There were no pure essential oils in the marketplace.
There were none.
We knew we had to go find them.
Which we've done.
Yes.
And so now let's talk about what that means. I want to talk about the chemistry of frankincense.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, because we're making this assumption that all of you know about our quality and all these other things.
What makes our frankincense unique? Because, I mean, I was in the hardware store a couple of months ago, and they were selling pure frankincense.
Well, Emily, you do live in Nephi, so that makes some sense.
The hardware store. So I pulled off the cap, and I had my husband and my kids smell it, and I loved their reaction. They turned up their nose. They're like, what is that?
Was this
well, they claim it's frankincense, but clearly it's not.
Was this a hardware / bank / fast food store?
It was
all
Cal
wrapped
Ranch.
up into one?
It was Cal Ranch, only hardware.
Okay, well, I'll give you that.
But essential oils have even made their way there. They've become very popularized. Or when doTERRA began in 2008, you didn't see many essential oils. We were kind of the front runner there. And there were other companies that existed, but they didn't have the purity, they didn't have the potency, and so we needed to create that. And because doTERRA has grown so large, people say, well, clearly, in order to have success, we need to offer essential oils. But they don't have what we have, and so let's talk about that.
Okay, I was